Yeah.
So guys, thank you for your patience. We're going to take a few minutes just to get everybody in as they come in. Okay? We're going to start just in a few minutes as people are coming in.
Yeah. So, Yanush, are you nervous?
I'm more excited than nervous, actually.
Yeah, that's good. Me
Yeah.
too.
I mean, I was nervous before, but now I'm not nervous.
How did you not get nervous? How did you turn that to excitement?
It's a fine line between that and nervousness. um, I'm, I think the reason why I turned excited because I saw Cami come in.
That'll do it. Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Seriously. Yeah.
Smile is just
Yeah.
like time.
Yeah,
Like,
well, that's how kind of this whole thing began. So as a
yeah.
result, we're here.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, I guess we're home.
Yeah. Cami, I just have to thank you because, you've added like 50 extra hours of work to my life to get to this point.
You're welcome. I hope there are 50 good extra hours of work.
Oh my God. I have to tell you that this is, you know, so exciting. This is like dream come true to be here with all of you. It really is. I mean, this is like many years in the making. So it's really surreal to be doing this, especially with that guy, Yanush, wherever he is on the screen. Yanush.
Here.
Well,
Yeah.
as Yanush says, there's a right time and place that the divine makes happen. So it was the right time and place that we met.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Everything in divine timing and everything is divine.
exactly.
So, tell me more about that fine line between nervous and excited, Yanush. What does that feel like?
When you say about 50 hours, just because we're talking about creativity, so this was took 50 hours to create this experience. Because Justin and I spent we went back. I reviewed the recording from Valencia. I know maybe many of you have been there, right? Or most of you were there. I wasn't able to be there. My grandfather actually passed away, so I couldn't leave home. My grandfather was 107 years old, so he had an amazing life, lived over a century, right? And I had a really beautiful chance to get to know him over the last decade. So when I watched the Valencia, I got really inspired by it, and I said, okay, well, we're doing this again. So here we are, and I see about 15 people on the call. It's beautiful, just the way it is. Oh, here's John comes in, and I I already feel connected to you, even if you are still kind of learning about who I am. I feel connected to this group through Justin and through Cami and through Francesca because we met only a few months ago, but it feels like a long-term relationship already.
Hmm. Yeah, and I can't quite see everybody just because of the Zoom view being small, but for the people who are just joining, this is going to be a very connective workshop. So it's going to be really important that everybody's here present and with your video on so we can all kind of connect and be with each other. Okay. So I really want to invite everybody to be video on. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. So let's get started. And we'll have a recording of this for other people who might not be able to make it and who signed up. And I just want to start with saying thank you to Greta and also to Cami for welcoming me and via me, Janusz, so warmly to the Sigma Squared community. And for those of you who weren't in Valencia, it was quite magical, quite a beautiful experience. So today we're going to talk about how to 10x your creativity, but it's part of a thread of three topics: how to 10x your decision making, creativity, and productivity. Now, I was an entrepreneur for 20 years. And the reason we picked those three words, those three concepts, is because they're all very connected on a deep level. But they're also the three things that tend to go out the window as an entrepreneur, as a founder, when the pressure is on. Because what happens is we revert back into a younger version of ourselves, into the egoic patterns that we've developed, into the triggers. And those triggers then constrict the creative flow. They constrict the ability to decide, to create and innovate. And as a result, productivity goes down because we're less efficient. We're not able to think as clearly and move as fluidly and creatively. So really want to invite everybody here just to relax and connect. Please turn off any distractions because we have an amazing story for you to kick things off. And so Janusz is going to share an incredible story about tracking, the oldest form of human creativity.
Thank you, Justin. You guys familiar with safari? Anybody been to safari in Africa? Yes, yes, maybe, no? Yes, some of you have. You guys, when you were in safari, were you walking in safari or you were in the car? Car? Mostly in the car, sitting in the car. Okay, beautiful. So several years ago, I read this book called The Lion Tracker's Guide to Life. Okay, it's written by Boyd Vardy. And Boyd describes a really beautiful experience of tracking animals on foot. Now, in safari, something interesting happens, but we become the prey. We're no longer the predator, right? In the world that we live in, you know, we have boxes and we created this structure and infrastructure, and we feel very, very comfortable. Justin's going to show a picture of it. But there you go. In safari, we walk and we look for animals. So I want to share with you one vignette of a story tracking animals in safari. Now, we started with tracking rhinos. And the reason why we started tracking rhinos is because the paw is that big and you can't miss it. Make sense? When it's big and something big in your life, right, it's really difficult to miss. So we started tracking that. And interestingly enough, these are huge animals, right? They're very, very quiet when they walk, and you cannot hear them. So as we're tracking these animals, right, we look for clues on the way to see where they are. Now, if they are in the pond with a lot of dirt, for example, right, they leave markings on their body, and as they move through and they brush themselves against the leaves, right, you can see the residue of the dirt, and you can say, okay, well, they're here, they're walking there, we're tracking them. So in the morning, we went out, there's 9 of us, and we tracked them for 3 hours, and we couldn't find them. Now, what happens is in the tracking is that sometimes when we track things, right, we couldn't find, we get what? Some of us get frustrated. Like, gosh, you know, I was looking for this. I came here all the way to South Africa from San Francisco. I'm like, well, I can't see the animal. Like, what's happening? Why am I not receiving what I need to receive? So the trackers, you know, one of the most important things that trackers have is patience. And one of the most important lessons from the story that I've gathered is that sometimes you have to backtrack to find exactly where the last time you saw these animals. So together as 9 people, we lost the track and we had to backtrack all the way to the beginning, probably about 100 meters back. And we spent another hour tracking them and we couldn't find them until the main tracker said, you know what we're going to do? We're just going to go have lunch. I'm like, what? We're just going to give up like this? No, we're going to go get lunch, and then we're going to see them in the afternoon. We're going to track them in the afternoon. So the break, actually, we went to lunch. We had a beautiful lunch, relaxed, and we went out again. And the main tracker, his name is Rainius. The way he thinks about animals is he actually trying to understand what the animal does, what the animal is, and how the animal acts. Okay, as he was able to understand that, he was able to guide us back to the tracking of the animal again. And we start seeing, again, prints of these rhinos. Now, altogether, it took us about 6 hours to find these rhinos. And we could only see them about 100 yards away. Now, as we got closer to them, we had to be very, very quiet, because these large animals have these big ears, just like, you know, these big antennas, right? And they hear humans. And if you talk, they will run. And when they run, everything shakes on the ground. And you can really hear them. So the story, the reason why we want to bring the story is because there are a couple of elements. One, there's backtracking. Backtracking is one of the most important parts of being creative. The second thing is about understanding that patience is required in many of these instances. And tracking as a profession is one of the most, like Justin said, one of the most ancient profession in the world. But interestingly enough, the reason why we're bringing this in, see this little pause here? The reason why we're bringing this in is because all of you guys are trackers in one way or another. You're tracking your own path. You're tracking your own journey, right? And some of the elements that we want to bring in today is to help you understand how to track better, how to fine-tune your own tracking experience. Does it make sense? Good.
Perfect.
Justin?
Yep. So for starters, what we want to do is invite all of you to write down, what would you like to get out of today related to creativity? And we'd like you to post it into the chat, but don't hit send until I tell you to. So go ahead and write down, what would you like to get out of today related to your creativity? Go ahead and post that in the chat. Okay. Then I'm going to count down from 3, and at the same time, everybody hit send all at once. Okay. 3, 2, 1, hit send. Great. So think more creative daily, learn how to unblock creativity in stressful situations, new insights, refresh creative thinking, decide what works, unleash creative thinking to get ideas, insights, flow easily and authentically, experience creativity in new ways, not as a means to an end, but getting back to an end in itself to unleash new perspectives. Nice. Accessing creativity during stressful periods. Beautiful. Okay. Now, before we go further, we'd love to hear everybody go ahead and write down, what is your current definition of creativity? And again, we'll do the same process in the chat. Okay. So write a definition of creativity as you see it. Okay, ready? We can go 3, 2, 1, send. Beautiful. Combining novel, trivial ideas into solutions to create something that was not there before. Being able to look at things from an outside of the box perspective, think out of the box, easily flow, come up with not obvious ideas, new solutions to the same problem, flow-like state, new ideas not created before, channeling inner truth and essence, the process of coming up with new ideas, begin about to create new and exciting things, thinking laterally. Okay, beautiful. Okay. So I'm going to show you a few slides here. I'm going to share a couple things, including my definition of creativity, and then walk you through kind of an unusual way to look at the way that we create. So my definition of creativity is that it's a way of being. And with creativity, there's an alchemy to it. It's an alchemy of combining what you know and what you don't know, and using that combination to navigate reality with excitement, joy, and ease. So before we go on, I want to just review a little bit of what we covered in the first workshop in Valencia about decision making. So a very, very important concept to understand is that we all have this access to creative flow somehow. We are creative beings. We seem to be able to create a lot. But what we forget is we can create bad experiences or we can create good experiences. And typically when we're creating bad experiences for ourselves, what's happening is we're caught in what are called the four conversations, or what I like to call the four concerns that primarily occupy the ego. So you can think of this as the negative voice in your head. And when I was in Valencia, we had the entire audience of 300 people. I asked them the question, does anybody have a negative voice in their head that sometimes is judgmental or critical or self-judging or negative? And everybody in the whole room stood up, 300 people. So it's very common, but there's another way to think about it. And when you start to become aware of these four conversations, these are kind of the four things we tend to get triggered around. So one is being right. Another is looking good. Another is money, and another is time. So these are clues to let you know that you're caught in what I'm calling the untamed ego. Yanush, do you want to say anything else there?
Yeah, I just want to add to this. So the conversation of being right is it's very simple. So if I'm right, you must be
Wrong.
wrong, right? And if you're right, I am wrong. So it's a complete dominance, like who's right, who's wrong. Okay, you guys following that? You're probably dealing with this on a daily basis within your teams, right? Or with, in your relationships. Somebody needs to be right, somebody needs to be wrong. So that's one conversation. Now, conversation about looking good is about how do I look? How do I sound? Do I look good to them, right? I have to be sounding smart, because if I don't sound smart, how are they going to think of me? Okay. Does that resonate, this conversation? Yeah. So we're constantly involved in that. The third conversation was about money. I don't have enough. I can't fundraise this. They're not giving me enough. This is too much. This is too expensive. Like that conversation of money, right, is actually a conversation of commitment. And when you have a commitment, that you are completely committed to something, somehow money shows up. We can have a whole conversation about that, a whole seminar about that. But somehow when you're committed, truly committed to your purpose, to your way of creation, money shows up. That's the third conversation. So far, so good? Yeah, it's okay. If this concept is a little complex, it's okay. We can spend some time on it separately. Now, the last conversation is about time. Now, you can hear people say, yeah, I don't have enough time. This takes too long. I wish it would have taken a little, I needed extra time. I'm late to a meeting, right? Because I needed, well, traffic was there, right? Something like that. So this conversation of time is conversation of intimacy. It's one of the most sophisticated conversation to understand. Now, when I'm intimate with myself and I understand myself, I understand the concept of time. We're not going to invest in this conversation at the moment, but we just wanted to give you a sense that when you are in these conversations, you most likely have concerns of the ego. Does this resonate for you guys? Just want to make sure that you conceptually understand it, just for now, okay? Good,
Great.
Justin.
So the other aspect of this is that what also connects to the ego is our nervous system, our mind, and our heart, or our emotional system. So you can kind of think of your nervous system as your body. So when we're caught in the ego, we feel it in our body because our body doesn't feel safe. So the ego is actually this beautiful computer that's designed to keep us safe. Now, our mind likes to control things. So we associate the mind with the head. So, if you're really frustrated, you'll kind of feel it in your head. Or if your mind is going really fast, you can feel out of control. Things are skipping around. But from a slower pace, for example, then you feel relaxed. And then with our heart, usually we're afraid of losing connection, which is a very primal impulse. It goes back to when, we were in small tribes and we were dependent on each other to survive against nature. So being isolated or disconnected from the tribe was basically death. So you can trace almost all of our reactivity that comes with this untuned ego back to these three impulses: safety, control, or connection. So these are also clues to help you navigate and help you track. And it's very binary. So if you feel that you are unsafe, out of control, or disconnected, what that means is you're caught in not reality, but you're just caught in your perception, in the untuned ego that's not aligned with reality in the moment. And if you're in one of the four conversations about being right, how do I look, money, or time, you're also probably caught in a negative aspect of your ego. And the way you'll know is because you'll feel it. So if you feel tension or nervous or anxiety, those are signs that you're just not in reality. You're delayed, you're caught, and you're thinking about reality through your lens of your perception versus being present, relaxed, and in the moment. So the negative voice in your head is basically what I would call the untrained or the untamed ego. And what happens is if you're worried about you, which is often what it's indicating, it's this reflexive thinking. What that does is it reduces your decision-making capacity. It limits access to infinite creativity, and it diverts time and energy away from the flow state of productivity. So in a way, these are all kind of the same things, even though they're different sort of outputs that we have. And what we want to do is show you the way out of that. Now, if any of you were in Valencia together, we did this exercise that we call the peace exercise. But a helpful thing to remember when you're under pressure is, first of all, the pressure is always created by your own mind. Unless you're being chased by a lion, then you should run. But the trick is to learn to train yourself to, first of all, realize when you're in your ego, into the untrained ego, and then to relax that story or relax that energy, let it go, release, and then find a way to orient your awareness towards peace. And that's something that you can cultivate in yourself over time because you also cultivated and trained your ego based on your culture, the way you grew up, your belief systems, etc. So the only thing in the way of you and peace is essentially all of the memories you've collected that you've made stories of. Okay? So we're going to do a little exercise here where just for a couple minutes, I want to invite everybody to go ahead and close your eyes and go ahead and take 2 deep breaths. And I want to show you a technique called the physiological sigh, where if you breathe in through your nose and then take an extra sip, so it's a double sip breath, and then exhale slowly through your mouth. So it's like this. Now, I'm going to do one more breath. And as you exhale, I want you to imagine your thinking is just trickling down from your head to your heart. Just imagine everything relaxing into your body. Now, I want to invite you to remember a time when you felt deeply peaceful. Now I want to invite you to imagine a time when you felt deeply creative. Now, while you're in this relaxed space, I want to read you a beautiful poem based on what the elders in a tribe in the Northwest territories of the United States used to share with young children and young members of the community if they were lost in the forest. This is a poem called Lost by David Wagner. Stand still. The trees ahead and bushes beside you are not lost. Wherever you are is called here, and you must treat it as a powerful stranger. Must ask permission to know it and be known. The forest breathes. Listen. It answers. I have made this place around you. If you leave it, you may come back again, saying, here. No two trees are the same to raven. No two branches are the same to wren. If what a tree or a bush does is lost on you, you are surely lost. Stand still. The forest knows where you are. You must let it find you. Now, when you're ready, go ahead and gently open your eyes and come back in. Beautiful. Now, what's great is I saw a bunch of you yawning, and that's a good sign. That's actually detox. That's coming off of the main vein of the craziness of the outside world. So now, many years ago, that would have freaked me out and triggered me in my position right now. I would have been like, oh my God, they're bored. But now I know that's just the ego relaxing. It's beautiful. So, what we're going to do now, real quick, I'd love for everybody to think about the qualities that you experienced during that exercise. So, it could be, peace or love or whatever you personally experienced. And again, I'd like you to type those into the chat. Go ahead and type in any of the qualities you experienced. Okay. And then 3, 2, 1, go ahead and post those. Beautiful. Warmth, peace, clarity, calmness, stillness, alignment, relaxation, release. State of being held by what is around you. Beautiful. So, one more short story, and then we're going to break into some workshops and do something really fun to work on creativity. Okay. So this has a couple of fun pictures with it. Now I might try there's this cool thing on Zoom where I can like put my head in front of the slide. So we'll try this, see if it works. So many years ago, I started a nut company and we got pretty far. We were distributed all over the United States. And we had created these really fun brand and yummy flavors. And one day I was in New York City raising capital. Um, in my journey as a founder, I ended up raising money from 50 angel investors. And man, that was a hustle. And so here I was in New York City. I had a meeting with a couple of partners from the largest mutual fund in the country. They were going to do an angel investment potentially. And I woke up one time, I was ready to get to the meeting, and I walked outside, and this is what I saw: complete gridlock. And I had to make it 20 blocks across New York City, and there was no way. So I was in a cab, and we didn't move anywhere. So I jumped out of the cab, and I had no idea what I was going to do, but I noticed there was a bike rack of like the city bikes that you can rent. So I quickly rented a bike, and then I sprinted as fast as I could for about 20 minutes in a suit, all the way to this building. And I ended up 20 minutes late, sorry, 10 minutes late, totally sweaty. And here are these two guys that are way above my weight class with, you know, so many letters behind their names: Esquire, MBA, CPA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Really smart finance guys. And I walked in there, and the thing that occurred to me, first of all, I was really relaxed and invigorated from the bike ride. But what occurred to me to say was that, hi, I'm sorry I'm late, but I'm from Boulder, Colorado. And so it just wouldn't have been right if I didn't come here without a bicycle. And that helped everybody relax. And they laughed, and I got the deal. And what I realized in that meeting, in that moment, was that they were jealous of me. These guys were trapped in an ivory tower, trapped by the letters behind their names, trapped by their fathers and mothers' expectations of what they were supposed to be. And they were bored off their asses. And so their little angel investment in my company was a way for them to live vicariously the creative adventure I was on. And so this day continued, and I ended up just walking out of there on cloud nine. And I hopped on my bike, and I realized that the UN was in town. It was UN week, and that's why there was so much traffic. And a couple years earlier, I had been to a conference called the Social Good Summit. And at the Social Good Summit, all of these dignitaries from around the world, global leaders and people like Richard Branson come to this event. And I happened to know one of the organizers. So I rode my bike a couple blocks, ended up at this conference, called my friend, and he got me in. He got me a ticket. So I walked in, and I couldn't believe it. Richard Branson was giving a keynote. Now, a year earlier, when I had launched this product, I did a funny little campaign at the launch party. I created this postcard, and Richard Branson at the time owned Virgin Airlines. So we just did this funny little thing. Let's get nuts on the plane. And I passed out the postcard and asked people to, put it on Twitter, etc. Nothing happened. Now, here I am walking in, and Richard Branson's right in front of me on stage. So I watch his talk, and I'm like, no way, this is great. This is incredible. Now, when I was a teenager, I used to go to concerts like U2 or big concerts. And my friends and I would play this game called Jedi Mind Tricks. So we'd find a way to sneak past security and get back and meet the artists. So here I was, there's Richard Branson, and I'm like, oh, it's just Jedi Mind Trick time. So I go to the edge of the stage, and I almost catch him, but the security blocked me. But then I noticed the bloggers were following each other like a flock of geese. So I was like, I know they're going back to the press room. So I just pretended I was a blogger and followed them. And I go back to the press room, and I happen to know the press agent. His name's Caleb. And I say, Caleb. And he looks over at me, and I had one bag of nuts left in my backpack. And he was going back to deal with the celebrities and stuff. And I was like, Caleb, you've got to give Richard my nuts. And he was like, who are, what? Who are you? So he comes over, recognized me, takes the bag of nuts, and I write on the back of a business card, Richard, I'm raising capital, call me. Caleb goes back, comes back 5 minutes later. Sorry, guys, Richard's not coming out. But he looks at me, gives me the thumbs up. So Richard Branson got a package of Olo Momo nuts. So that was just a beautiful day. Beautiful, beautiful day. I ended up running into a friend I hadn't seen for 10 years. He showed up right behind me, and we ended up having a beautiful day together. It was just one of those magic days. Well, about a year later, I woke up one morning and I was like, I'm going to write a blog post about that experience. And I did. And I sent it out to my email list. And a couple days later, I had a dream that Richard Branson gave me business advice. The next morning, I woke up and I saw this on Twitter publicly from Richard Branson introducing me to the buying team from Virgin America to get nuts on the plane. Now, Richard Branson's sister happened to be best friends with somebody on my email list. I don't know how that happened. So there's a lot of clues in that story. That's the way creativity works. There's obstacles and opportunities. And every obstacle, every constraint can be used as a creative variable that propels you into a creative opportunity. So what we're going to do now is get into some breakout groups. But before we do that, I'd like everybody to go ahead and write down a goal or a problem where you would like more creativity. And you're going to be workshopping that problem for the next half hour or so. Okay. We'll just give you about a minute here. Okay. Does anybody need a little more time? Go ahead and just raise your hand.
Yeah, just give him another minute.
Okay.
Could be business related problem. It could be personnel thing you want to resolve, opportunity you're thinking about.
Cami, can I ask you a favor? Or do you have something decided? Okay. Can I use you as a guinea pig or okay, great. Okay. Just a moment. Okay. So what we're gonna do next, I'm gonna just walk you through some instructions here. And then Francesca is gonna post these into the chat if you need to refer to them. So we're gonna break out into groups of 3 of about 10 minutes. So person 1 is gonna read the goal or the problem. Person 2 will repeat this question and only this question 10 times in a row. Okay. What do you really want? And then person 1 will basically respond saying whatever comes to mind. So it's not a big thought process. You're not going to tell a story. You're just going to kind of say the first idea that comes to mind, first thought, best thought. Okay. And then person 3 will listen deeply and keep count of how many times the question's asked. Okay. And then you're going to pause for a moment and let person 1 reflect and take some notes. And then you'll switch roles and repeat the process. If you have extra time, if you finish before we call you back, just go ahead and share observations from the exercise with each other. Okay. Are there any questions? And then I'll do a quick demo with Cami. Okay, so Cami, let's just show this. I won't ask you 10 times, but I'll ask you a few times so people can see. Okay, so what is the goal or the problem you'd like some creativity around?
Okay, it's a slightly more technical one. So we are trying to assess the sustainability of raw materials on the 10,000s scale, for which there currently is no data to do so in traditional means.
Okay.
And we're embarking on a new part of this journey. And at the moment, it feels like all the options are less than ideal.
Okay. So that's perfect. It's nice and complex. Okay. So what do you really want?
I want to help our customers make more sustainable decisions.
Okay. And what do you really want?
Jumping a few levels here, what I really want is I want to help in whatever way I can buy ourselves some more time, humanity, to live in greater harmony with the rest of the natural world. So that's why I'm doing that.
Okay. And what do you really want?
Like I fulfilled my purpose on this planet.
Okay. Beautiful. So we could keep going, but you get the idea. So that's the exercise. There's no advice giving, there's no coaching. It's just ask the question. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and break out into groups of three. And Francesca, if you can make that magically happen, that would be wonderful. Yanush, are you still excited or are you nervous?
Now I'm very relaxed.
Good. Okay, good.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
what do you really want? It's like one of the most beautiful questions to ask.
What do you really want?
You asking me?
Yeah.
Um, in the moment, I really want to experience kind of the process of kind of getting rid of distortions.
Okay. How are we doing? Is everybody back? Great. So, would love a couple of volunteers just to share how that was for you. Anybody mind sharing? Go ahead. Yeah. Kemi, you'd like to go?
Yeah, because I feel like I did it. I mean, I did it twice or pieces of it twice. And when I did it the second time around, I went down a slightly different path. Like there were similarities, but I felt like I got to another place that I don't think I would have gotten to the first time around if you would have kept asking me. And maybe that's also because I feel like I was put into a different state of mind by having everyone else around me do it.
Sure.
Um, and I think uh, that allowed me to track a new path because I was able to kind of go back. And so I feel like I had that backtracking experience where I went back and I was like, okay, which path do I now want to go down? And is that really what I really want?
Nice. Nice. Thank you. Yeah. Who else would like to share? Yeah.
I can share.
Great. Thanks, Julian.
For me, so the last time I was asked, I don't know, was like how it would go on if it was continued to be asked, but it was peace.
Mhm.
And I feel like reflecting on it, I think there is some ground truth to it. So there's some path. Maybe the path is always a bit different, and it's also a bit depending on your state right now. But I think it leads to somewhere, and I think I should do it more often to figure this out. And I also was reminded a lot of when I was a child. I think a lot of those ideas of what I really want stem from the time back then, how I thought about the world, about things. And I just got set back into this thinking, which was really nice to experience again.
Beautiful. Yeah. Great. All right. Got a couple more minutes. Anybody else? Chris, do you want to hop in?
Very interesting. I think like the more questions you are, or
Hey, Chris, your audio is not working. Yeah.
not working at all, or just silent.
Now it's back. It was just cutting out, so it's okay now.
Okay. No, I feel it's interesting how at first you are oftentimes repeating answers that you have given before or that you have thought about before in the first few runs of like, why am I doing what I'm doing, or stuff like this. Then as with the amount of repetitions, right, you going into areas that you maybe haven't explored yet. So I found the repetition very helpful. And it's also very interesting to like always get back to your why, in a sense, or why are you actually doing things? Because it gives you so much different approach to how you could also solve your problems today.
Yeah. That's really incredible. And what you can notice from this exercise is often we're not solving the actual problem. We're solving a problem that is part of a complex set of problems, but it's not actually the right problem. So this is a wonderful way to define what the actual problem is that you're trying to solve. Yeah. Thank you, Chris. Yeah. Anybody else like to share? Maybe can I call on you, Jasmine?
Yeah, of course. I thought it was really interesting seeing how each of us in the group, the more the questions were asked, were lighting up, or like some things that we were thinking about more, and some things we just felt. Like I know that when I was being asked the questions, some of them were like stream of consciousness. I was just like, oh yeah, that's really easy. And then when I was like, oh, now I don't, I've run out. I'm like, have I got anything left? So it was really interesting to see where in my body the answers were coming from. Like, were they in my head, or were they my like, was it my head being like, yeah, Jasmine, you want to do this? Or was it my heart being like, oh, but you actually, this is really important. So it was really cool being an observer of where it was coming from my body. And yeah, when you think you're going to run out of stuff, you're like, oh no, there's another one. And it's quite nice just seeing how there's this web of, community pieces and purpose and mission. And it's quite a big picture that it helps paint, I think, when you keep asking the questions. So I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Okay, let's do one more. Go ahead, Yanush.
Yeah. Can I just add something? So I wanna share how I see it, and I hope that I can verbalize it accurately. And so if I can, just ask me questions. So there is content that we speak of, right? Like there's a question, what do you want now, or what do you want, right? And there's a content from me asking and for somebody responding. Okay? But there's also a process happening there at the same time. So I want to spend just 2 minutes on the process. So there's something about being witnessed. When somebody's asking you a question versus me asking myself a question, like it's very difficult to be witnessed myself, right? It's a whole different way of being versus when somebody is in the room, like when Jasmine was just asking me, like I can just visualize this. Somebody's asking her a question, right? And she's responding to someone, right? That's being witnessed in your own creative mind as you going from something, you either some people, and Anton, for example, he was diverging and Julian was converging on something, right? He was like really focusing in on something, and Antoine was surprised that he was kind of going from like very, very small to something big. But being witness in this process, that's what makes it so palpable. So a suggestion, if I can make for all of you, and making for myself, because I work with Virginia, I work with Justin, I work with Francesca, is that finding people in my life who can help me with this. So I need people who are so good that I can trust to be witnessed in my own creative development. Does this make sense? So that means that when you guys are figuring out who your founders are, or who you're bringing on your teams, like these people are the ones who can be in the space to help you improve your creative flow. Does this resonate? Because Justin challenges me, for example, and I challenge him, and then we constantly improving our creative flow. Justin, if you want to add something to it.
Yeah, I think to kind of wrap that, and we have about 10 minutes left, we're going to close, but it's a perfect segue where the reason Yanush and I have chosen to work together is because we've sort of developed the trust to be able to have intimate conversations. And so that has come from the experience of developing a trust both in the integrity that we have with our word, so the way that we can trust that what we tell to each other will happen, or if we make a mistake, we're going to clean it up with authenticity and integrity. We can also trust that we both have the capability to support each other in different ways. And of course, we have the rapport of friendship and what it just feels good to be together. And so that's why when I had a crisis several months ago with a relationship, I went into nature and had a very healing experience. And I requested that Janusz witness my story when I came back. That felt very important to have that shared with somebody. And so that's what Janusz is talking about. That can be in crisis, but it can also be in creativity. And for me now, it's the same thing. Crisis is creativity, crisitunity. So we're going to finish the tracking experience here. And I want you to know we didn't get to everything today. So this is an experiment. Everything's an experiment. And so there's another workshop that we're going to be doing in January that will be the third part of the series on productivity. So we'll have some links for that in a minute. But I want to just give you a few thoughts to wrap with. So the name of the game here about creativity, about being a founder, about being a human being. What I love about the founder journey is it's, in my experience, the closest thing to the hero's journey that a human being can experience in modern day culture. Not too many of us are going to be, hunters and warriors and things that we used to do, living in nature. So we find that through other ways, but we can still cultivate that in ourselves. So it's developing a trustful and peaceful feeling to yourself. And when you do that, the obsession with time disappears. We bend time. We relax. We create intimacy. We bend time. And with that, pressure reduces and you can naturally focus your awareness on creativity. So there's more bandwidth. There's less energy spent on drama, the drama of the untamed ego. And I believe everybody here with a bent towards creativity, Cami, I love you. You couldn't even ask the question without hacking it. Like that's who we are, right? We hack stuff, we break stuff, we try things, we experiment. And that's what the zone feels like, that creative tension between, the edge of what could be fearful, the edge of the unknown, that anxiety, but it's really creativity, that nervousness that turns into excitement. And here's the thing that, Janusz and I had to battle for this for over 20 years on this crazy journey. And what we've learned from that is that the zone can be cultivated. You don't have to hang out in drama. It's a choice to use your creativity to cultivate peace inside of yourself. That's something you can do right now, something that is literally an 18-inch journey from your head to your heart. And if you cultivate that intimacy with yourself, you're tapping into the creative cycle at a very high level. And the creative cycle is all about being, it's a way of being. So if you are being joyful, the doing and having that comes from that will be full of joy. But if you're being angry, you're going to express that anger, and that will create a result that comes from that way of being. So most of our culture is obsessed with doing and having, and especially entrepreneurs. And I think what's special about the Sigma crew is that there's an inherent and natural orientation towards being, and how that ties into the work that you all are creating. But the mistake is to think that you are what you do or that you are what you have. And I made that mistake and I paid the price for it. It's extremely hard to lose your identity when it's wrapped up in a business. But that was also the biggest gift I've ever been given, because now I'm here. I get to share that story. I get to share that there's an easier way, a more efficient way, a more productive and creative way. And so what we're up to here is to grab the future, the created future. And that is to visualize, put your flag in the ground of what you really want. And then pull yourself towards that from the future to now, not from the baggage of the past, not from the baggage of the untrained ego. And that's what the inevitable future looks like, is sort of business as usual, suffer through, stress yourself out, work under pressure. No. Let's actually get really creative. Let's plant towards possibilism. Let's really create from what's possible. Let's daydream. And then let's reverse engineer into that daydream. So to take this away today, the only thing in the way of your decisions, creativity, and productivity, the tension inside of your mind, heart, and body, is the tension inside of your mind, heart, and body caused by allowing the negative voice in your head to dominate you. By training yourself to relax and release and bring deep connection inside of yourself, you will open up your natural access to flow. And your inner connection can be trained in many ways. Find your own way. There's a million ways to relax. But it's as simple as a few breaths and orienting yourself towards peace, as we showed today. So last little exercise we're going to do as a community. I wanted to show you the word cloud from the peace exercise that you just did. We pulled this together behind the scenes and created this for you. So this was your collective experience of the peace exercise. And to wrap, I have this quote: when we tune into that presence within us, something inside us wakes up, and we're able to take our enhanced clarity, heightened sense of well-being, and increased access to wisdom with us when we go back out into the real world. And I want to remind all of you, you are the infinite creative potential of the entire fucking universe. Deal with it. Now, all of you are invited to write a quote just like that in your own words. And so what I'd like you to do is think about one or two sentences from what you're taking away from today, and go ahead and post that in the chat, and please add your name to the quote. So it looks like this. Oh, this makes me so happy. Amazing. Inner peace opens the door to unlimited potential. This is what we can step into to be truly creative. Release your ego. It traps you and keeps you from being creative. Be present with what you really, really want. then deeply commit to it and be there to ride the wave of flow of life as life unfolds for you, for the world. I am calm, for I am the zone. Mic drop. If I'm pursuing this expansive vision, I need to be very mindful of who I take along the journey. Antoine, beautiful. The more you think about what you really want, the more you find that you just want to stay true to yourself and be happy. Being uncomfortable isn't always bad. It is part of growth, and with growth comes creativity. Oh, wow. This is so amazing. So amazing. Yanush, any final words?
Thank you for tracking with us today.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And just have one invitation here. Yanush and I are designing programs all around the world, in nature as well as online, and creating community like this. So if you'd like to learn more, Francesca is going to share a link just to get onto our email list. It's called the Founders Oasis. And we have a waiting list where we'll let you know about the programs that are coming up that we're designing next year. Yeah. So thank you very much, everybody. And can everybody unmute and just so we can hear you and see you and say goodbye. And yeah. And
Thank you
Francesca,
so
go and
much.
yeah, thank you
Thanks,
so much.
guys.
Yeah,
That was
thank
a lot
you,
of fun.
everyone. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank
you
you.
guys. Yeah.
Thank you for playing.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for tracking.
Thanks for tracking.
Yes. Thank you for creating with
Been
us.
very cool.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye, everybody.